streaming on YouTube. We will. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So listen, guys, we are talking about the breaking news of the day, the true cost of migration into the United Kingdom. Look, before we get onto this live stream, I'm going to tell you the solution to all these problems is here in the United Kingdom, we have no legal mechanism to oppose a tyrannical government. That's the reality, guys, okay? That is the one thing that we need, and that's the one thing that will sort this country out. Nothing else, okay? Your protest, this legislation, voting in these people, voting in those people, it's not going to help, guys. I promise you it's not going to help. I've been talking about this for quite a long time. People, maybe, I think in about 12 months' time or maybe a couple of years' time, people will start saying this. People in the United Kingdom, we need a legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. And that is it, guys, nothing else, because we can't do anything until we've got that. So the breaking news of the day, guys, is it's come out, the official numbers now, the actual cost of asylum in, well, I guess, is it asylum? Billions wasted on asylum hotels amid fears, amid failed and chaotic, expensive home office system. So what we've got now, guys, is a system where people are just making money. People are just making money. They don't care, they don't care about how many people come in, because each person that comes in, as I understand it, some people are telling me they get £200 a day for every migrant that comes in, or every boat person that comes in, they get £200 a day for that person. Some people are telling me 300. Some people are telling me it's a lot more. It doesn't matter, because these people are making a lot of money. And why does it matter? Like, why would you, like, if you was making billions of pounds and you was a foreign investor, why would you care if you're destroying that country? You wouldn't. You would not care at all. So I've got two articles here, guys. I'm just going to give you the headlines real quick, and you let me know if you guys think that these could be possibly connected. So this is from the BBC, released, I believe, today at 05:13. They were up early. Home Office squandered billions on asylum hotels. That's the BBC headline, okay? And then a headline from Sky GB News: companies that donated to Labour were awarded 138 million in contracts. Do you guys think there's any correlation between those two things? Do you think there's any correlation between the masses of contracts being handed out by this government and the amount of asylum seekers? I don't know, guys. To me, it looks like there's a lot of backhandedering going on in here, guys. But look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to keep coming on to this. The only way out of this, and the absolute only way out of this is if the United Kingdom, Britain, if there is some sort of legal framework where you oppose a tyrannical government. Because I don't it would be very difficult to argue now. In fact, let's have a quick Google. What is the definition of a tyrannical government? Let's just have a little Google. Tyrannical government is a cruel, oppressive, and unfair system of rule. I could argue we have a tyrannical government right now, guys. You like, with that definition, you could argue it. A cruel, oppressive, and unfair system of rule where a single person or small group, Jesus, holds absolute power without legal restraint. Does it sound like that right now, guys? Does it sound like we have a tyrannical government right now? For example, Sadiq Khan. You know what? Let's forget that. Let's not even mention names, because I don't want to get Lucy conflict. So Sadiq Khan, I was going to just mention how great he is as the London mayor. So forget what I just said about Sadiq Khan. Let's just give you guys a hypothetical scenario now. Let's just say there was a mayor of a great city in the United Kingdom, and that mayor of that great city, evidence came out about him that he had been doing really bad things. I don't know, covering up certain gangs and hiding, and and it was out there, and he didn't resign. It would be very difficult to argue that is not a tyrant under this definition. Absolute power without legal restraint, often characterized by the abuse of power and the suppression of individual rights. Jesus Christ. That's the UK, right? Tell me I'm wrong, guys. Tell me I'm wrong. Guys, if you're in the chat, tell me I'm wrong. I'll read that again. So I just did it. Look, okay, those of you who've been following the channel for a while, you guys know that, you know, I've been saying these things for a long time, and other people will catch on eventually. But the only way for the United Kingdom to become a United Kingdom again is if the people have the ability and a legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. That is the only way, guys, right? Because right now we don't have any legal framework. You know, you've seen these marches in London. You know, they don't achieve anything. We're going to get 1 million people. We're going to wave all these flags. It's great, guys. It does. You know, you get some brilliant, you know, those people who go there, they feel great. But what happens? What changes? Nothing. And I've always said the only way to deal with this is to have something, you know, like a Second Amendment written into UK law or a constitution. We need a constitution whereby people of the UK have that legal framework. Because if I say, hang on a minute, if I said this now, guys, if, you know, and you know, I like, look, I'm not going to do this. I could train and equip an asymmetric force, and we could oppose the government. We don't need guns. We don't know. You wouldn't need guns. I could train and equip an asymmetric force and go after the government. But that would be illegal. And I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to risk going to jail, you know, and being away from my kids. And without that legal framework, nobody's going to do it. So without that fundamental building block, guys, nothing's going to happen. And I get it. Everybody wants to put the flags up, and I get it. Everybody wants to go to the protests, and everybody wants to share Tommy Robinson videos. I get it. I know how you feel, guys, okay? I know how you feel. But without that legal framework, you will get sent to prison. You can't go against the government, guys. They've got guns and stuff. It's not going to work. And that's not me. Oh, Sean, you should rise up. That's not that. It doesn't work like that, guys. You will get put down. Trust me. I've worked at government level. You will get put down. So I just Googled then real quick. And I didn't realize the answer I was going to get. I just Googled, what is the definition of a tyrannical government? And I spelled tyrannical wrong, but it doesn't matter because Google corrected me. Thank goodness. And AI gave me this definition. And let me know, guys, if you think this fits our current government right now. Just let me know, or maybe I'm wrong. And I welcome adversity, guys. I welcome opposed opinions. Diverse opinions. I do welcome diverse opinions. A tyrannical government is a cruel, oppressive, and unfair system of rule where a single person or small group hold absolute power without legal restraint. I'm not making this up, guys. Often characterized by the abuse of power and the suppression of individual rights. Let me know, guys. Let me know in the chat. Does that sound like the government that we're living under in the United Kingdom right now? I would say it does. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. A cruel and oppressive, unfair system of rule. So let's say cruel and oppressive. Do we think giving Lucy Conley, what was it, 2 years? Was it 2 years and 6 months? 2 years and 6 months in jail was cruel. I think it does. For a post, I think it was cruel. Do we think it was oppressive in nature because it's oppressed other people from voicing their opinions? I think it did. Do we think it's an unfair system of rule whereby Ricky Jones told people he was going to do wild stuff and nothing happened to him? So do we think that, again, guys, look, I'm not making this up. I'm asking a question. Do we think the two gentlemen who had fisticuffs in Manchester Airport, do we think they're ever going to see the inside of a jail cell? So, you know, you tell me, guys. I'm not, you know, I'm sloping my shoulders here, guys. I'm careful with my words. Do you think I'm not podcasting my opinion, guys. I'm asking you what you think. Do you think that we have a cruel, oppressive, and unfair system? You know, just give me yes or no, guys. Give me yes or no. Okay, so that will be the first tick in the box for tyrannical government. Okay, right. Okay, fair enough. Let's continue. Where a single person or small group hold absolute power without legal restraint. Have you seen how? I would say, right. Have you seen how quickly? If I, you know, let's just look at the statistics here. We worked out the other day the Raven maths. I think we did the Raven maths, and what we said is, I think we said it was less than 15% of the people of the United Kingdom voted for Labour in the last election. Less than 15% of the country voted for Labour. Now, again, guys, like I may be wrong on this, so please correct me if I'm wrong. The last election was the lowest turnout that there's ever been in the UK. So, and I think it was only 30% of people actually voted. And of that, was it? Hang on, I can't remember what it was. I think I'd have to look into it again. I did it on a video previously, guys. Okay, I think it was like 33% of people turned out to vote, and Labour won like 40% of that vote, or something like that. Or I can't remember, guys. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Basically, we worked it out on another live stream, and I said it's just shy of 15% of the voters in the United Kingdom actually voted for Labour. So now you could argue that, you know, a small group who are holding absolute power without legal restraint. I mean, you've seen the amount of elections that Labour have cancelled, right? So they're, you know, it would be very difficult to argue that a small group is holding absolute power here. And this is what I keep saying, guys. You know, this is literally what I keep saying right to you guys all the time. I keep saying this. If the government pass a bill and it's wild and it's insane, we have no way of saying, no, we don't want that. No, I'm good. I don't want to do that. We've no legal framework, and the government are obliged, you know, and the police are obliged to enforce those laws. So I would say we've got 2 ticks here. I'd say we've got 3 out of 3. I would say, let me know what you guys think. You know, I would say we've got 3 out of 3 for, and I might be wrong, guys. You know, you guys might not think we have a cruel, oppressive government. You might, guys, not think we have an unfair system. You guys might not think that, you know, a small group of people hold absolute power without legal restraint. Often characterized by the abuse of power. I don't know where the abuse of power would be here, and I'm thinking objectively, guys. I don't know where that abuse of power would. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is there. And suppression of individual rights. So there we have it, guys, ladies and gentlemen. There we have it. Listen, guys, I went on a little bit of a side quest there. I want to get back on track and talk to you guys about the real cost now, the real cost of migration into the United Kingdom. So it's come out as from an article from the, well, I'm going to read you this from the BBC, guys, okay? This is an article posted. So you know how the taxes, you know how we keep having to put the taxes up? You know how the taxes keep having to go up? I'll give you it in short. Billions are being spent on asylum seeker hotels, and the profit margins are out of control. And everybody's scrambling, thinking, "Oh, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense." Well, I'm going to let you into a little secret, guys. It makes perfect sense. It makes absolutely perfect sense, because those same people who are bringing, my speculation, analysis, and opinion, guys. This is my opinion, all right, for entertainment purposes only. I would say that those people bringing in the migrants are the same people profiting from the migrants. Does that sound like a wild conspiracy, guys? Does that sound like a wild conspiracy? So the Home Office has squandered billions of pounds of taxpayers' money on asylum seeker accommodation, according to a report by a committee of MPs. And it just shows you how stupid these people are. You know, the MPs, basically. They have no idea what they're up against. The Home Office Affairs Committee said flawed contracts and incompetent delivery left the department unable to cope with the surge in demand. It relied on hotels as a go-to solution instead of temporary stopgaps. These contracts weren't flawed, guys. When you write right, okay, let me let you into a little secret, guys. I'll let you guys into a little secret, okay? When you're a private company, you know your shit. They are very competent. Like people in private companies, I've dealt with a lot. I deal with them on a daily basis. They're very competent, right? They are very competent in contracts, right? People in government are not very competent. They're not. They get put there because they're being sponsored by. Well, let's just look at this article here. Companies that donated to Labour have been awarded 138 million in contracts this year. So I'm just going to leave that there and then we'll come back onto this. So I would speculate that the donors who are part of the international companies actually own the politicians. So these flawed contracts, they're not flawed. I've done it myself, guys. I've done it myself. I've absolutely done this myself. You go in there and you say, right, okay, we write this contract and here's a little clause here. This is where we're going to screw them on. Because when you go to a meeting, look, I'm going to use some colorful language in a minute, all right? When you go to a business meeting, all right, you're sat there across the table from each other. It might be a high stakes meeting. It might be millions, or in this case, billions on the table. You are trying to fuck them. And they are trying to fuck you. And sometimes you might make love. Sometimes you might make love and it might be a beautiful thing. But most times, one person gets fucked. And that's why I've done relatively well in my career. Not because I understand these contracts, because I judge the people. And people will text me when I'm in the meeting, Sean, do you trust these people? I'll be like, not a chance, mate. Not a chance. Sean, do you think these people are hiding something? Absolutely. I don't know what it is, but we need to look at that contract again. So when you go into these meetings, and don't forget, these private companies, they're going to be entering these negotiations with the government. And the government, they're not spending their own money. The government will not get fucked. It's the taxpayers that get fucked. So when you get these private companies who are very experienced, international players, they go into these meetings with the government, with Keir Starmer. I mean, can you imagine David Lammy in one of these negotiations? Can you imagine that? It'd be fun, And Angela Rayner's not here, but I think all you'd need to do with Angela Rayner is say, Angela, look at these trousers. Sign that contract. That's all you need to do to Angela Rayner. So I don't think these contracts were flawed at all. I think these contracts were written by the people who want to take the money and the government just signed them. Why? Because the government have probably been, let me tell you, because the people at the government probably have donors. Can you imagine it now? You go into this meeting, guys, right? You're going into this meeting, right? You're there. I'm a hotelier, right? I've got a chain of hotels or whatever. What's it called? The International Asylum Accommodation Protection Service or whatever they call it. You go into this meeting, there's millions on the table. And guess who's at the other side of the table? Guess who's at the other side of the table? A politician who you're one of his donors. So the person who's going to be signing this contract worth millions, you're a donor to him. You've already given him 50 grand in the back pocket. What do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to sign the contract, or he's going to say, listen, mate, this contract doesn't look really good for the taxpayers? No, of course not. So the Home Office committee said flawed contracts and incompetent delivery left the department unable to cope. Again, incompetent delivery. It's not incompetent delivery, guys. They don't care. As soon as they've got that money, they don't care. They don't care whether they deliver. They've got that money. MPs said the MPs said expected costs had tripled to more than 15 billion. And not enough had been done to recoup excess profits. Let me tell you something, sweet cheeks. There's no such thing as excess profits. If you sign that contract, if the government signed that contract, they have to pay. That's the reality, guys, all right? So there is no such thing as excess profits. If those private companies are screwing the government and the taxpayers, that's on us. You know, that's not the private company's fault. That's the premise of that private company, to make as much money as possible. You can't go after excess profits. You need to sack all those people who signed the contract. So what they're saying is this has tripled now to 15 billion. Let's just all remember that. Let's all remember that, guys. So remember when Rachel Reeves took over and she said she's got a, you know, when Rachel Reeves took over and she says we've got an, what's she say? We have a 22 billion black hole. Well, just by mishandling of these hotels, she's turned that into a what? 22 plus 15 black hole. Absolutely phenomenal, guys. So, you know, next month, 27th, was it 27th or 26th? I can't remember. I think 26th of November next month. You know, when she stands up there, Rachel Reeves, and she says, look, you know, we've had to pay for this, we've had to pay for this. Just remember, 15 billion, and this is just on hotels, guys. This is just on asylum seeker hotels. Now, I don't know if this incorporates food, welfare, you know, medicine, transport, you know, all the taxes they've been taking. I don't know if this incorporates it. I don't know if this incorporates it. Excuse me. This just says, this is the headline. Home Office squandered billions on asylum hotels. The real money is hidden, guys, you know. And guess who's going to pay for this? Guess who's going to pay for this? Thee and me. Thee and me. Right, I'm going to get some comments, guys. Millman is saying we are owned by Israel. What do you mean we are owned by Israel? Nicholas 77 is saying, Nicholas 77 is, have you heard about the Axel copycat? No, I've not. Let me Google this. Axel copycat. Axel copycat. Do I want to Google it? Do you know what? Right, Nicola, I did a really dark video yesterday. I don't think I'm ready to Google Axel copycat. I'm not going to Google that because I've been Googling some stuff of you guys, and it's, you know, I've been Googling some stuff, and I just wish I hadn't. Chloe is saying, my friend's husband's from South Carolina has just been deployed, so we know why this is. Right, okay, where are they being deployed to? So South Carolina, I would say that is, are they going to Venezuela or something? I'm just going to the comments. Gavin Taylor is saying the government are not fit for purpose. All being told you will own nothing and be happy. So, you know, you see, one of the problems here is, you know, those people who are protesting with waving the signs and the placards, and they're saying the real problem are the billionaires sat on yachts. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, guys. Look, I totally get it. You know, I totally get that. That is the real problem. But you know what the real problem is? The masses of migration flooding our streets, guys. Absolute masses of migration flooding our streets. So, you know, it's kind of, you know, I say it all the time. It's kind of like that, you know, the, the meme where it's like, I need to get props, don't I? You know the meme where there's like a cylinder in the middle? There's like a cylinder in the middle and one person stood on this side and he's saying, it's a square because he's looking that way and it is a square. And that's the shadow. And it's true, it is a square. And the other person's looking on the other side and the other person's saying, no, it's a circle. And he's looking, he's saying, no, it's definitely a circle. I can see it. It's a circle. You're wrong. They're both right. You know, they're both right. All they need to do is come together in the middle and look and say, all right, God, it's a cylinder. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Well, we're both right. Shake hands, and then and then there's no more arguing because they understand it's a cylinder. You know, so people on the left are screaming, and look, guys, you know, people on the left are going to have a really big culture shock really soon. Yeah, they're going to have a really big culture shock. Oh, it's these billionaires on boats. It's these billionaires on yachts. Yes. Do you know when I was in you know when the guys were in the Falklands? You know when the guys in what was it? Was it 82? Yeah, when the guys were down in the Falklands in 1982, taking the Falklands back, you know, 2 para. When they were taking the Falklands back, they were fighting up Mount Longdon. You know, you're there in a heavy machine gun fire. They're going up Grenade Alley. There's explosions and mortars, artillery coming in. They didn't shout, right, lads, these are not the real enemy. The real enemy are the politicians sat in Argentina. No, you've got to deal with the ones that are in front of you first. Then once you've dealt with that, you've got to move on to the bigger pie. So look, guys, I'm going to say what I previously said. You know, right at the beginning of this live stream. This will continue, and it's just going to get worse until we get the. Ooh, hang on. Oh, my gas bottle's gone on my heater. Never mind. These things are going to get worse in the United Kingdom, guys, until, you know, these things are going to get worse in the United Kingdom until we have the legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. That's it. Nothing else. We can go and have our protests. Fine. Get 1 million people in London. Get 1 million people in London. Get 2 million people in London. Get 10 million people in London. All march through the streets, waving your flags, you know, waving your flags. See what happens. Just see what happens. I'll tell you now, real quick, nothing. Those people that go down there, they'll spend their own time, maybe a day off work, maybe a hotel, if you can find one. You know, and they'll use a lot of their own resources, you know. Maybe they'll leave themselves short that weekend. You know, maybe, oh, God, yeah, we can't. Oh, God, yeah, we're struggling on the gas bill because we went down London. Yeah, but we showed them that we've got unity. All right, fair enough. You've got unity. Well done. How's anything got better? Look, I keep saying this time and time and time again. And like, guys, can you repeat it? Guys, can you all share this? Do you know what? I don't know what I can, like, there are good people out there, but they don't understand the length and breadth of the situation that we're in. There are good people out there. Absolutely. Without that legal framework, the people can say, no, that's bullshit. I'm not doing that. It will keep getting worse. For example, excuse me, billions wasted on asylum seeker hotels, mansion tax, companies that have donated to the Labour Party were awarded 138 million this year. Does that sound like a donation, or does that sound like what would you say? I mean, I don't want to use the word bribe because would it be a bribe? It wouldn't be a bribe. That doesn't sound like a, you know. And again, the way they do these things, let's just say, for example, you know, I am a company, Raven Logistics, no, Raven Developments, right? I've got construction company, a property development company. You know, I'm an international company, Raven Developments. What I do, I get in there, you know, with somebody who I think's going to be the housing minister. You know, you get in there with the housing minister and you say, right, I want to buy a load of this council land. I'm going to donate, I don't know, 700 grand to you, and you can go and buy a house in Bournemouth somewhere. I don't know. Maybe if that's the thing. I don't know. And then that housing minister says, right, okay, then you want to buy some old council land here. And this happens, guys. It does. Your council will have sold off council land. Allotments, they're getting sold off and redeveloped into, you know, flats or houses of multiple occupancy. You know, so how you do this, you do it legally. You say, right, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to give those, we're going to sell off that council land, but because we don't want to get done for selling it cheap, what we're going to do is we're going to do an auction. Yep, we're going to do an auction. We're going to auction it, and we're going to let anybody come in and buy this land. Anybody can buy it. Anybody can buy this land. Anyone. You, me, your mum, your dad, your cat, anyone. We're going to open it up to everyone. You don't have to be an international developer because we're fair. We want that. We want that to go back to the community. So what they will do then is they will open up a portal, an online portal. They won't tell anybody about it. And they'll say, right, to register for this portal, you need to have, and they will make it so awkward and weird and like ridiculous, like nobody knows about it. You have to register very peculiar documents. You have to do them in a very peculiar order, and you've got 12 hours to do it. And then you have the auction. Oh, guess what? Only one person turns up to the auction. Oh God! Right? How come only one person turned up to the auction and they bought all this land for £1? Yeah, look, you know, and the government will come out there and they'll say, yeah, look, it was a problem with the data. It was a third party. It was a new app. We tried rolling out a new app and the app wasn't as successful as it should have been. And that app only got sent through to a few people, but it's done now. Let's not worry about it. Let's not worry about it. You know, let's not worry about it. The far right, they're the problem. But it doesn't matter because that person now who paid again, guys, I don't know. I'm just speculating now, guys. I'm just speculating. This may or may not be done. Let me know what you guys think. It's all being done above board. It's not that private company's fault that they're the only person turned up to an auction. They're a private company. Why would they pay more for land when they can get it for free? And then your land, then, you know, your land has been sold to an international developer. Guess what they're going to do with it, guys? Do you think international developers care about your community? Do you think international investors, you know, and I give you guys this scenario all the time. I say, where I live, where I grew up, it was like semi-rural location. And the summer times as a kid before I joined the army, these are 6 weeks holidays, going up to the cricket field and trying to get a pint. Obviously, I was under 18, so I never partaked in that. Honestly, seriously, guys, don't do that. Legal age is 18. You know, I remember going up to the cricket field and spending my summers there, like watching people play cricket. You know, and then you know they'd have like a little summer fair. You know, people would bring the cakes and stuff, and that's what I remember as summer. That's what I remember as growing up. I'm not going to do anything that jeopardizes that. Like, I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize that cricket field, that little village, because I have an affinity growing up there. Guess what? International investors, they do not. They will come in and they'll think, right, I need to make as much money as possible because I'm an international investor. And that's fine, guys. I totally welcome, you know, good, well done. The problem is, we have stupid people who think international investment is a good thing when it's not. It's never a good thing, guys. Bloodline is saying the film Rock and Roller spells it out. Yeah, it does. That is a good film, Rock and Roller. Ria, in fact, Kay is saying, Raven, what do you want us to do? Right, guys, listen. Hang on. Hang on. Some people are. Hang on. Right, let me just get some context here. Ria is saying, how do we get this, Raven? Millman is saying, can we not do a poll or finish what Guy Fawkes started? No, you can't do that now. People get arrested. Look, guys, anything done illegally is not going to work. The first battles need to be in the courtroom. And what we need to do as a community, as a group, first of all, you guys need to like, share, comment, subscribe, bell notification, guys. You know, that's the first thing you guys do. We need to grow this channel, all right? Second thing we need to do is we need to start a conversation. And these things are not quick. There is no quick solution to this, guys. There's no silver bullet. First of all, I can say to people right now, we need a constitution. We need a legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. People, I did it with reform, guys. I was laughed out the room. I was absolutely laughed out the room. Oh, Sean, we vote for our government. We don't need that. Yeah, how's that going? Seriously, guys, how's that voting thing going? You know that voting thing you're supposed to do? How's that? Tell me how that's going. I don't know. Is it going well? It's not going to work. So the first step would be to start a national conversation about, you know, just give that hypothetical scenario. Hey, guys, what if? How do we protect ourselves from the government? Because I tell you now, there's nothing. Zero. Zilch. We don't have a constitution. We don't. Anybody who wants to argue with me, that guys, just don't. It's not worth it. I don't have the time. We don't have a constitution. We have a series of documents that make up the British, the so-called the British Constitution, but there's no one document, and those documents are widely open to interpretation. So it doesn't really make any sense, you know. It's like when you say to your girlfriend, "What time are you going to be there?" And she's like, "Tea time." All right, what does that mean? Like, what does tea time mean? I have my tea at 5. You have your tea at 6. My mate down the road has his tea at 7. So, do you want me to wait between 5 and 7, or do you have your tea at 8? What does tea time mean? So, you know, that's the first step. You know, we need to open that national conversation, and just like you guys need to talk to your friends, all right, and say, hey, listen, do you know what? What protection would we have if the government, given my example, you know, I've talked about it a lot, give them my example, say, right, what legal protection do we have in the United Kingdom if the government passed the law, and give them my example, if the government passed a law whereby everybody's firstborn child had to be given to the government, and you listen, guys, Jesus, wow, right. You know how I say things and then wild stuff happens afterwards? I've only just thought about this now. Can you remember, like, how long have I been using that example? The example whereby if the government passed a law where you had to give your firstborn child to the government and you never saw that child again. I've been using that for a long time, right? Was it yesterday when Tulsi Gabbard came out and said that there's a market for selling newborn babies and body parts? So give them that example and say, how would we defend ourselves? And this is what they'll say to you. Oh, that would never happen. There'd be rioting. And you're like, yeah, but like that rioting would be illegal. The police would crack down on them. Yeah, people would go crazy. Would they? Would they really? Would they really go crazy? Let's see how crazy they go. Let me do some maths. Let me do some maths for you. In fact, you know, guys, I'll do the maths afterwards. So nobody had enforced that. Really? You don't think that there are people in the police service who would come out and say, yeah, I need to take your baby? And after 30 years, after 20 years, that would just be the thing. That would literally just be the thing. Right, hang on. One Michael Mood. Calm yourself down. Right, where's one Michael Mood? Oh, hang on. Right, hang on. Where's one Michael Mood? Hang on. Right, Michael Mood. I'm giving you a little bit of attention. What's Michael? Right, guys, just let's jump over. Right, Michael Lahoud, 70 with an O. Right, Michael Lahoud, what's your beef? What's Michael's beef? Off planet where we don't take it for granted. Right, okay, what's going on here? What's going on here? 52 lives matter. I don't know. Right, Michael Lahoud, I don't know where we're going with this. 'Right. Guys, I'm not going to block Michael Lahoud for being weird. I'm not going to block anyone for being weird, guys. He's not being, like, Michael, you're not being offensive. You're just being a bit odd, which is fine. I don't mind odd. And Debbie Doobs is saying he's an alien. But Michael, can you stop? But Michael, with respect, can you stop like spamming? Because what you're saying doesn't make sense, really. Like what Michael's saying here over on what one Michael over on YouTube is saying doesn't really make sense. I don't know what he's talking about. He's not being offensive. He's not being rude. You know, so I don't. Yeah. So, Michael, can you just stop bombarding with random stuff because it's not making sense. I mean, you're not being rude, but like it is a lot of like stuff that nobody understands. So, Michael, right? Instead of bombarding with like random stuff, just say one thing. Because I don't understand what you mean. You may have you may have some really valid points. I don't know because I don't understand. But rather than just bombard with stuff that I'm going to be honest, I don't understand. So so rather than just bombard with stuff we don't understand, just like put something that I understand and that the chat understands, and then we can talk about it. Because 52 what is it, 52 reality, I don't know what that means, brother. I see you from the off planet where we don't take for. I don't know what this means, but I'm all for space travel. I'm all for space travel. Right, guys, let me get back into this chat. All right, let me move that over. Right, so what we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, the true cost of migration to the United Kingdom, it has staggeringly gone into billions. So it turns out the 22 billion black hole has just had another 15 billion thrown on it, guys. Yeah, hang on. From now, we just put a quote on. YouTube. I will go on to that in a second, guys. Okay. So the real cost of migration into the United Kingdom, and this is, and again, this is asylum hotels actually. So I think my title was a little bit misleading. I do apologize for that. So the true cost, I guess, of asylum hotels. So this is just the hotels, guys, has staggeringly ramped up to 15 billion. Now, look, guys, I want you all just to remember that. So, next month when Reeves comes out, she gives her new budget, I want everybody to remember that the cost of asylum hotels is 15 billion. Has jumped up to 15 billion. Also, and I will keep going through this, guys, literally the only way to stop this madness is that if the people of the United Kingdom could have something like a Second Amendment or a legal framework whereby under certain circumstances, the people can oppose a tyrannical government. That is the only way. It's the only way, guys. And I've been talking about this for so long. I've been talking about this. And the definition of a tyrannical government is, I'll read this again, guys, and I'll jump over to YouTube and get that comment. A tyrannical government is a cruel, oppressive, and unfair system of ruling where a single person or small group holds absolute power without restraint, often characterized by abuse of power and the suppression of individual rights. And when I read that, guys, I wasn't, I just Googled that earlier on, and that's from AI. When I Googled that earlier, it does seem like, it does seem like if you live in the United Kingdom right now, there's a lot of ticks in those boxes, guys. There's a lot of ticks in those boxes. And we need to start that national conversation. How do we oppose a tyrannical, legally, how do we oppose a tyrannical government? And that starts by you guys just having that conversation with your friends, telling them to join my live stream and say, look, hypothetically, because people's minds will be blown. Just say, look, hypothetically, let's just pretend that the government in the United Kingdom passed a law so draconian, so bad, so crazy, so evil, that we had to oppose it. What would be the legal framework? No, we'd just go out on streets and we'd be fighting. Really? You're gonna go fisticuffs against the military? You're deluded, guys. They are deluded. And then just say to them, right, okay, so you're going to go fisticuffs against people with guns. Doesn't end well for people without the firearms. It does not end well. Not gonna happen, guys. It's not going to happen. There is no legal framework. Right. So from now over on YouTube is saying police officials say their biggest fear is Muslims kicking off, i.e. rioting. This is why they get away with everything. Something has to give that they are fucking us and making us swallow it. From now, can you tell me where you got that from? Where you've actually got that from? Because I'll go through that article with you. Sherry is saying I'm off and I need to get some shopping and sort some other stuff out. I'll see you tonight. I'll see you tonight, Sherry. I hope you have a great shop. I need to go and do my Monday jobs as well. Listen, guys, I was not at the gym today. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't at the gym today. Woke up this morning. It was absolutely freezing. So I've been outside this morning since I was up quite early because I've still not adjusted. I don't know. I think I was in the garden chopping wood at like 7. Debbie Doobs is saying the Rotherham mayor wasn't voted in by the Rotherham people. Yeah, it's just some crazy stuff that's happening, guys. Look, as far as I'm concerned, if you identify as a foreign national, if you've got dual nationalities, if you identify yourself as anything other than solely British, English, Irish, Northern Irish, Scottish or Welsh, you shouldn't be able to run for office. Not a chance. You should not be able to run for, not a chance, guys. That's it's so ridiculous. It's Templemat is saying we need a petition for a constitution. It might not go anywhere, but at least we get the answers off them. So, Templemat, can you remember the petition that went out about the go on? Can you remember the petition that went out about the digital? So, Templemat over on YouTube, guys, is saying we need a petition for a constitution. It might not go anywhere, but at least we'll get an answer from them. So can you guys remember when there was that petition opposing the digital ID? And I think it got did it get just under 3 million votes? 3 million signatures. And do you know how the government addressed it? They said, yeah, we're still doing it. So, I don't think I don't think people understand what is actually coming. It's going to be wild, guys. It's going to be absolutely wild. And the first casualties And I mean real casualties. I need the real. I mean the first real casualties. Like think Braveheart. The first like Braveheart type battles that hit the streets of the United Kingdom. This is going to be the real, the real Muslims, the real pro-Palestinian supporters against the liberals. That's going to be the first casualty. That's going to be the first battle, and they're going to be the first casualties. How many did let me just Google this a second, guys. So, hang on, let me go with this. In mid-1988, the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, ordered the execution of thousands of political prisoners. These executions took place throughout Iran and lasted 5 months, beginning in July. They took place at least 32 cities across the country where they carried without any legal authority. Trials were not concerned with establishing guilt or innocence. Many prisoners were also tortured. Great care was taken to conceal the executions. The exact number is unknown, but estimates by some human rights organizations say at least 5,000, and the higher estimates say 30,000 political prisoners were massacred. And guess what this was, guys? Guess who these were? These were the liberals. These were the liberals who supported the Islamist regime. They supported the Islamist regime. 30,000 of them allegedly, from Wikipedia, guys. From Wikipedia, this is what I'm going from. Speculation, analysis, and opinion. Of course, this video is for entertainment purposes. Do you know what's going to happen if we have an Islamist government? Exactly what happened in Iran. Those people who are dancing around, Palestine, it shall be free. Yes, it shall be free. We love Palestine, it's free. Palestine, it shall be free. You know all those people, once they get their rights taken away from them, and they're like, oh no, I didn't see this coming. They're going to get rounded up. Allegedly. Well, let's see what let's read that again, what they did in mid-1988 in Iran. The supreme leader ordered this is from Wikipedia, guys. This is from Wikipedia. The supreme leader, once they got in power, ordered the execution of thousands of political prisoners. Trials were not concerned in establishing guilt or innocence. Many prisoners were tortured. Great care was taken to conceal the executions. The exact number is unknown. High estimates say 30,000 political prisoners were massacred. You want to know how you bring control, guys? Do you want to know how you bring control? You use the liberals to do your fighting. Then as soon as you're in power, you get rid of them all. And there you go. You are in power. Let that be, people who don't understand, that could never happen here. That could never happen here. We haven't got anything, guys. We haven't got anything. And that's when, and at that point, that's when you'd like to think the United States would move in. It's going to get worse before it gets better, guys. Just a quick, right, guys, I'm looking at the time. I'm going to be closing you guys down on TikTok in a second, and I'll be over on, I'll continue this live stream on YouTube. Listen, guys, if you've not followed me, if you don't follow me on YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube, I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. It's getting dark, guys, all right? And you think things are bad now? Like, honestly, guys, you think things are bad now? I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East. We've not seen anything yet, guys. We have seen nothing yet. Nothing. And we're paying for this ourselves. Documenting Decline is saying, prior to 1900, you had to be of this land and believe in Jesus to sit in Parliament. Atheists and other religions banned even for native population. Who was the law changed for so they can sit? I don't know. I don't know. Tell me. I don't know. Documenting Decline. Let me Google it. It's going to be difficult to Google that. You know what? I'll do that afterwards. I'm just conscious. I'll get the last few comments on TikTok and then I'll close this down. Right. Right. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you guys that are on TikTok, okay? It's very clear to me. It's very clear to me what we have to do. We need that legal framework. We've seen these protests. They have no effect. We've seen people get arrested. I mean, look, guys, there's a guy who shouted at a dog and he got 2 years in jail for shouting at a dog. Like, I'm not making that up. I promise you, I'm not making that up. You know, that is literally the state of the UK. A guy got 2 years in jail for shouting at a dog, and another man said he wants to cut everybody's throats and he didn't see jail time. Where are we going with that, guys? You know, so without that legal framework and without that legal oppositional rule, you know, it's going to be a dark place. It's going to be a dark place. And the first step is to start that conversation. And the conversation is, and I want, guys, can you all do this for me? You know, just say to your friends and family and just try and get that conversation going. Right. If the government passed the law where our firstborn child had to be given to the government, we never saw that child again, how would you oppose that legally? And they'll say to you things like, oh, they'd be rioting all over the streets. I'm not sure they would. There'd be a civil war. I'm not sure they would, guys. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that have happened. What you would expect a civil war to happen, it just doesn't happen. People are too shackled by their own. People are shackled. What did I say? People are shackled to their own demise. We've financially shackled ourselves to our own demise. And just try and get that conversation going. And of course, make sure you're on the live stream later on today, guys. Okay, that's the first step. I know there's some of the lawyers out there. You know, there's that Stephen. Is it Stephen Barrett? Stephen Barrett. He's like an online, like he does things online. There's Black Belt Barrister. You know, we need to open up conversations with these people who have these legal minds and just say to them, right, for entertainment purposes only, what is the legal, because their voice will be, you know, their voice with their legal expertise will be better than mine. We need to get these people involved, and we need to say, look, what is the legal for it? And present that question to them. What would be the legal route to oppose that? And I'll tell you what they'll say. They'll say the legal route will be, oh, we have to vote. We have to wait till the next election, and then we have to vote in a new government. How many kids are going to go? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now on TikTok. I'll be continuing this live stream over on YouTube. If I'm not going to see you over on YouTube, guys, on Real Raven 1 on YouTube, if I don't see you guys over on YouTube, I will see you guys later on today. I don't know I think I may come on here again, guys, and do another video, because last night I was talking to my friends. And we was going through the hypothetical scenario of how to defend Earth against an alien attack. So I might do that and do like a bit of a fun video with like 3i Atlas saying, what if it is aliens? I don't know. But anyway, guys, I'm going to jump over to YouTube and I'll see you guys later. I'll be on at 8, guys. And I'll see you later. Right. Yes, you're right, Documenting Decline. The English do have rights to protect in old laws that the government cannot change, but they have changed them. They changed them. They have changed them. So this is what I'm talking about. You know, can we invoke these laws? And this would take a legal challenge. you know, this would take a legal challenge to go in and say, right, we need clarification on this. I can't do it. Good luck me going out there with sword and sandals and saying, I oppose you, rah! Yeah, nice one. That's not going to work. So before any of that happens, that legal foundation needs to be laid, whereby the people of the United Kingdom understand the legal framework where they can oppose a tyrannical government. And you're quite right. You know, the English do have rights protected in old laws that the government cannot change. They just deny the laws exist. And prior to 1944, people in the United Kingdom knew these rights and duties. I agree. That interpretation needs to be made mainstream, and you know that needs to be, there needs to be a legal challenge, or I don't even know how it would happen, guys. You know, some sort of legal framework where people can say, right, openly, people with bigger platforms than me need to come out there and they say, right, okay, this law here, we need to expand on this. Is this still relevant? And then the government will say, no, it's not relevant. And then people will say, hang on a minute, how can you do that? And then there'll be a big debate in Parliament. You get both sides arguing, and it brings light to it. And then at the end, they will either say, but this is what I mean about getting that conversation going. And then at the end of it, they will either say, yes, you guys do have the right to oppose the government, or no, you guys do not have the right to oppose the government. Either way, that conversation started. And then if they know, people will say, well, hang on a minute. What if you guys pass a really weird law? And you see where I'm going? The first step is to open a conversation and use it as a hypothetical scenario. What if? But, you know, there really is no way, guys, that legally we can oppose the government. The British establishment wants us stupid and scared. Yes, I agree. Why be scared when we, the native population, are the only people of the lands that can be armed to fight off religious persecution and violence? Yeah. So So what they did there is So what they did is they said, yes, you can be armed, and this is where the U.S. The Second Amendment in the United States does actually draw from this. I can't remember what section it is, but in Old English law, you're allowed to be armed to fight off, you know, persecution, and you have the right and duty to oppose persecution with weapons that are available to you. Well, they didn't change the weapons they didn't change that bit. What they just did is take away any available weapons, you know. So you know, I'm still confident, you know, and I wouldn't do this without a legal framework. You know, I'm still confident you could raise and it would probably be better not to use firearms anyway. You could raise a rebellion and fight back the government. You wouldn't really need guns and stuff. The laws are written in plain language. Zero imports have rights because they have zero duty to protect the nation. Only native people has a duty. So I don't think we could rely on that in law. You know, you would need a legal team. You know, before any of this happens, you would need clarification on these interpretations. Because right now, the interpretation of that, the government would come in and say, no, the interpretation is not that. But look, guys, before anything, that if you know, on Batman, the first one, what's it called? Batman Begins. He sat there on a plane, and he comes back and he says, "Why the mask, Bruce?" And he says, as a man, I can be destroyed, I can be silenced, I can be ridiculed. As an idea, I can be eternal. And that's kind of what we need now, guys. We need a movement, not one person standing up, because one person will be chopped down and they will be, you know, chopped down, they'll be bought, they'll be paid off. We need that legal framework. Without that legal framework, guys, you can't do anything. Zoe Dean is saying there's been a raping, oh God, of an Asian lady. What do we mean by Asian? in my town by a white man. So did they actually say that? Did they actually say that? It's done by a white man. They're saying it's racially aggravated, but giving no context as to why then the perp is white, he's rape regardless of rape. I don't know about that, Zoe. That's literally the first time. I don't know. That's the first time hearing about that. I know there wasn't there a Sikh, something happened to a Sikh girl by two people. I can't. Is that the same thing? So your admission is you're a retard and can't read and interpret what is written. We have a legal framework. People don't want to do what's needed. Okay, right. Okay, right. Documenting decline. With respect, good sir. Okay? Okay. With respect, you try and oppose the government and use that legal framework. Good luck. Good luck. Okay? Why hasn't this been done already? You know when these million people went down to London? You know when 1 million people went down to London? Why didn't they say we're going to oppose the government, we're going to take over? Why didn't they do that? You know, and we're going to invoke these laws. You can't invoke these laws, mate, okay? You can't, it doesn't work like that. Like, good luck trying to invoke a law to keep yourself out of prison from, I don't know, 1806. No, look, this law was written in 1806. I'm going to use it. You can't do that. It doesn't work like that. I'm going to assume you don't have much experience in the legal system. With respect. Coastal is saying, yes, it would be easily flipped, but these people do have a reason to present any... Okay, I don't know what that means. Any person gets walked over, everyone all at once down in tools would have the same effect. Right. Okay. Look, guys, listen. I think everybody's saying the same thing here. All right. I think everybody's saying the same thing. What I've been saying and what I've always said, all right, is people need the legal framework, all right, to protect themselves. That's the reality. And we do not have the legal framework to oppose the government. You know, let's get it up. Let's get it up what it says. Because I know it doesn't say to oppose the government. I know there's caveats in there. So what, where is he? So what documenting decline is saying, where he's saying that I'm a retard and I can't read or interpret what's written. I can read and interpret what's written, but it doesn't matter what I interpret, mate. It matters what the legal system interprets. So, you know, I mean, I like it that you're calling me a retard. I think it's funny. So what you're saying is my interpretation of the legal, I will get it up in a minute. Basically, it says people of the United Kingdom have the right and duty to oppose tyranny. But this is an old law. When it says like can arm themselves with weapons that are available or something. I will get it up in a minute. So what you're saying is when I'm standing there, you know, when I'm standing there, you know, and there's all the judges and the barristers and Keir Starmer's cherry-picked barristers and judges against me, I'll say, well, my interpretation of this law is this. What do you think them barristers and judges are going to do to me? Like, what do you think they're going to do to me? Do you think they're going to say, oh, actually, his interpretation is better. No, I'm going to go to jail. So like I said, so I think your actual admission is you're a retard and you're not listening to what I've been saying. So what I've been saying is we need to have an open conversation in the United Kingdom and we need to understand the interpretations of these laws. Maybe it's not those laws. Maybe it's something else. But those laws need to be interpreted and they need to be widely interpreted so everybody understands what they mean. Like the US Constitution, where it's clear, everybody understands it. People get taught it in schools. Right. before I hit return on this, no, this law was actually, no. This law, I'm going to hit return in a minute. This law was actually written for peasants to oppose an oppressive lord like a baron. This has no relevance to government. Right, so the right to, I think this is what we're talking about. The right to resist, is that it? Yeah. So here we go, guys. Look, straight away on Wikipedia, the right to resist is a nearly universally acknowledged human right, although its scope and content are controversial. Right to resist, listen, depending on how it's defined. That's what I'm talking about, guys. Depending on how it's defined, we need to open that conversation up and understand where it goes. Because if I just stand up there and shout freedom, I'm gonna get arrested. So will you, and quite rightly as well. Yeah, I'm not going into that, guys. I definitely know what I'm talking about. No. Let me get this guy up again. By standing in a court and taking one of the bar-accredited lawfare practitioners is everyone's first mistake. You are saying you cannot read or write, so you need an interpreter to speak for you. I don't know what that means, buddy. I don't know what it means. I can read and write. I mean, I'm reading your messages, and I don't have an interpreter, although I think I may need one. Have you ever asked the judge what dictionary he's right? Okay, documenting decline. With respect, mate, I think you're a bit retarded. Like, you're not listening to what I'm saying, mate. I'm not going to answer your questions anymore. Do you know what? Right. I am going to answer your questions, right? I am going to answer your questions because people may think I don't know what I'm talking about. Right. Have you ever asked the judge what dictionary he's using? No, I've never been in front of a judge. I don't know any judges. So no, I have not asked any judge what dictionary he's using. I would assume he'll be using the dictionary in that whatever. I don't know. I would assume a judge isn't sat there with a dictionary. I don't mean to be facetious there. He is using because you don't comprehend the words he is saying. Okay, right, okay. I don't know what words the judge is saying. I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I want to help you here. What he is saying, understanding and comprehending are two different things. Right, okay, right. So, okay, let's give the scenario. So what you're saying is, documenting decline. I start a rebellion. I go up there, I quote the right to resist, as a human right, and I say, no, I have the right to resist. And then they say, a right to resist what? A right to resist a tyrannical government, a foreign occupation. What is that right to resist? First of all, we need to understand what a tyrannical government is, and the government needs to be deemed a tyrannical government. So the first argument would be this government's not tyrannical. And then I would say to him, haha, but what dictionary are you using? That's not going to work in a court, mate. Just so you know, that won't work in a court. I won't be able to use that as my defense. I won't be able to use that. When those bailiffs come and take me down and I don't see my kids? Is that on you? Honestly, like, you just like... Do I read Latin or Greek? I don't, mate. No, I don't. I read English, Russian, Ukrainian, and 2 dialects of Arabic. But I don't actually read 2 dialects of Arabic. I can spot some words in Arabic, but I can speak 2 dialects of Arabic. So no, I don't speak Latin or Greek. But I know a little geek. Right, listen, guys. Document to decline. Like, can you come back on later, because I'm going to have to close this live stream down. First of all, the stuff you're saying is fanciful and it's not going to work it's not going to work in real life. What you're saying is that you can go to a court and you can walk out and say, oh, I gave you guys, I did this. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. All right. I'm going to go back to what I said originally, and I'm going to close this live stream down. But I'll be back on later at 8, documenting decline. You know, I will be back on. I will be back on later at 8, and we may be talking about similar things. And I'd be happy to talk about you. I'd be happy to talk about it more. Okay, so. Okay, right. You know, we went on a side quest here. So the true cost of migration, guys, it's spiraled out of control. They're looking at 15 billion. We're paying that. I would say it's going to be a little more than that. When Rachel Reeves comes out next month and she gives the new budget, just remember where that money's going. With response to what we've been talking about here, and I'm going to leave it here, guys, okay? He's talking about legalized as a language. There's a legalized dictionary. No, okay, right, listen, guys, okay? It's not going to work. It's fanciful and it's academic. What you're talking about is fanciful and it's academic. It needs to be practical. All right, it needs to be practical. The first step to opening that, whether it's right to resist, you know, to oppose a tyrannical government, the first step is to open a conversation. So I'll give you guys the scenario again. What rights would we have to resist if the government passed a law whereby that law made everybody give up their firstborn child to the government and you never saw that child again? That's been passed through law. It's had the stamps. It's had the gavels banging down, you know. We don't have a method. You know, right to resist won't work. It's not going to work. And if it is going to work, that needs interpretation. So everybody understands what is legally obliged. Without that, guys, it's nothing. And it's all well and good people with, you know, academics sitting there saying, oh, yes, but this would happen, this would happen. No, they wouldn't. The government had just changed the definition. Anyway, guys, listen, I'm going to close this down now. So you guys, oh, hang on. No, in a courtroom, they talk legalize. I'm just explaining what's being said. Right, listen, guys, I am going to have to close this down now. I'll be back on at 8. I would welcome more open conversation because I do think it's needed. Equally, guys, you know, I'm confident in what I'm saying. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with me this morning. It's been a bit of a weird one, and I'll see you guys later.